My name is Darcie LeFebvre, and today I would like to talk to you about standardized testing. This is a topic that is incredibly important to me as it affects many children's lives. It is particularly important to me as I am a child who began standardized testing just this past week. My daughter is a third grader, and standardized tests are given to students to measure their proficiency in math and reading beginning in 3rd through 8th grade, then again in the 10th grade. These tests are all the same and should sound familiar to the most of you. Multiple choice, essay, short answer, and true or false questions, which students answer using a number 2 pencil to fill in a bubble on a separate answer sheet. I'm going to assume that most of you are familiar with standardized tests, as I concluded a survey prior to this speech, and all of the respondents indicated that they had taken a standardized test before. Therefore, it is more important to me that I spend this time discussing why it is that we need to stop standardized testing altogether. We need to stop using it in our schools as our primary means to measure our children's intelligence and proficiency. School should be a safe space where children can go to be creative, to let their minds run wild. History teaches us that to set our child up for success, they should not be told what to learn. They should not be told whether they are smart enough to succeed based on their ability to perform well on standardized tests. As a matter of fact, there is much evidence to contradict standardized testing as being an effective tool. There are a number of arguments for and against standardized testing, a few of which I'd like to discuss more in depth. Proponents offer a number of common arguments in support of standardized testing. These arguments include standardized testing is an objective measure of achievement, that standardized testing has positively affected student achievement since being introduced, and that standardized tests are inclusive and non-discriminatory. Each of these arguments is easily debunked using literature and studies published by nonpartisan and independent groups. The first claim that standardized testing is the only objective measure of achievement has been proven false numerous times. It is not an objective measure of achievement whatsoever, let alone the only. There have been many independent studies done, including one from the peer-reviewed Journal of Human Resources, which indicate standardized testing is in fact not objective. The fact that standardized tests are compiled and administered by humans who are inherently not objective means that the objectivity argument is flawed from the start. Everything about the test, from the wording to the weighting of different questions, detracts from an ability of this test to be objective. And it's not only the objectivity argument which is false. Proponents will tell you that since becoming the norm, standardized testing has positively affected student achievement. Based on a number of studies, standardized testing has not positively affected student achievement, and has in fact had the opposite effect. The U.S. rank worldwide in the Program for International Student Assessment, a major worldwide education benchmark, dropped from 18th to 31st since the No Child Left Behind Act was signed into law by George W. Bush in 2002. If indeed standardized testing improved achievement, this should not be the case, and in fact, we should see the opposite trend. Other studies, including one from the National Research Council, have found the same to be true, that standardized testing is not improving student achievement whatsoever. Well, if standardized tests are actually objective, and they have not improved achievement, they are at least inclusive and non-discriminatory would at least be true, right? Unfortunately, this claim is also not correct. Tests are administered only in English, and for those students who do not speak English as a first language, they must take the same tests as everyone else. Special education students are required to take the same tests as the rest of the students as well. If you're a non-English speaker and your proctor cannot translate for you, you are out of luck. Therefore, upon brief examination, it quickly becomes clear that standardized tests are not inclusive. Rather, they are discriminatory and have the potential to leave many students out. Now, take a moment and just put yourself in their shoes. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. Suffering from anxiety, not being able to focus because your mind is racing. You are sick to your stomach for fear of letting someone down. You don't want to disappoint anybody. A teacher who you love could be at risk of losing their job. Because test scores are below average, school activities may be canceled, such as clubs, sports, band, as well as vocational classes. You may be dyslexic. All those words and numbers on a piece of paper are overwhelming. I can't imagine that feeling that overtakes your body in that moment. Maybe you're a more hands-on learner, and it's easier for you to work through problems that way. Tests are timed. There's time constraints, so the extra pressure it puts on you. I know for me, knowing that tests are timed is very stressful. I'm already feeling rushed in that moment. Given these challenges, how would you feel about taking the test? How would you feel about your chances for getting into that college you want? Are you sure that your score on the test represents your true ability and proficiency? Would you feel like this was a fair way to compare you to your peers? Is it a fair way to measure your teacher's ability? After all, everyone learns differently, right? In fact, that's the reason standardized tests do not work. Every child is different. Rather than teach to a test, we should encourage creativity. Inspire, allow children to explore and learn more hands-on. I think if we stop using standardized testing in practice, this type of common sense in education and measurement, we may see a brighter future. In closing, I'd ask you to reflect upon the words of some of our greatest minds in the context of standardized testing and stand up together in the opposition to standardized testing in support of common sense, individually focused measurement of our children. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? Dr. Seuss. Don't let schooling interfere with your education. Mark Twain. Sometimes the most brilliant minds do not shine in standardized tests because they do not have standardized minds. Diane Ravitch. Conformity in the last refuge of the unimaginative. Oscar Wilde. If my future were determined just by the performance on a standardized test, I wouldn't be here. I guarantee you that. Michelle Obama. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Albert Einstein.